Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the channel. Happy Tuesday, everybody, and happy start of the NBA play-in tournament. I hope your day and your week have been going very well so far. Got a new day, which of course means a new NBA player prop video to share with you guys. But first, as always, people, please make sure to go ahead and hit the subscribe button, hit that like button, and drop a comment down below. It helps the channel grow, and it really does mean a ton to us. With a new day comes some new opportunities to go ahead and make some money. And like I mentioned, guys, today is the official start of the 2025 NBA play-in tournament. The regular season is officially behind us. It's in the rear-view mirror. The playoffs are in front of us, but this is sort of that little limbo in between the playoffs and the regular season. We have two games on tonight. We have Magic, Hawks, and Grizzlies, Warriors. Not as many player props available to us as we normally would have in a full NBA slate, but I still found some pretty solid value. I have two single bets to go ahead and share with you guys in today's slate, as well as a three-leg parlay to go ahead and share with you guys. And that'll most likely be the format throughout the play-in tournament. Honestly, maybe even the playoffs. A couple of single bets mixed with a parlay, just because, well, there's not a lot to go off of. I mean, in terms of how many player props are available, we don't have 10 plus games to go through. From this point forward, the most games we'll have on a given day is like 4. So not a lot to go off of here, but we do still find a pretty good amount of value in these player props. Guys, if you are watching today's video, thank you very much. And comment play in down below if you're watching today's video. Again, really excited for the postseason to be here for the NBA play-in tournament. I've never been a huge fan of the play-in tournament, if I'm being totally honest. But specifically the Western Conference play-in is going to be really interesting. This Warriors-Grizzlies game tonight should be really, really special. So very much looking forward to that. Atlanta-Orlando, not so much. I don't think teams with less than 500 record should be eligible for the playoffs. That's just me personally. But again, we're going to have fun. A long road of the postseason starts today. Let's not waste any more time, guys. Let's dive right into today's picks. Jumping right into the Outlier screen, guys. Shout out to Outlier, the best sports betting tool on the market. We do offer a special link down below in the description that gives you guys a 7-day free trial to go ahead and check it out for yourself. We got MLB, you got NBA playoffs, NHL playoffs, soccer's coming back, WNBA's coming back soon. The WNBA draft was last night. So tons of stuff to bet on, and Outlier is your tool to have by your side through it all, guys. Make sure to go ahead and check it out. I'm only giving you guys a little bit of what it offers. There's so much more that I don't really have the time to show you guys. The only way to check it out for yourself is to use the link down below in the description, 7-day free trial to check it out. All right, so we're going to start with the single bets, and I'll make sure to clarify when we move on to the parlay portion of the video. Our first of two single bets in today's slate comes from the Atlanta Hawks Orlando Magic game, 7:30 p.m. tip-off. We're going Trae Young of the Atlanta Hawks over 36.5 points plus assists. We're going to look for -110 over on DraftKings. It is available on multiple sports books for varying odds. And the data across the board on this one, guys, is pretty solid. You'll see 7 of his last 10 games, he's cashed the over, averaging 37.5 points plus assists per game over his last 10 games. Even looking at his last 20 games, a 70% hit rate. 14 of his last 20 games, he's cashed the over, averaging 37.5 points plus assists per game over his last 20 games. Go ahead and stretch the data out to the entire season view for Trae Young. Still very, very solid. 51% hit rate, 39 out of 76 games this year. He's cashed the over, averaging 35.8 points plus assists per game overall this year. You do see second half of the year, around the All-Star break and post-All-Star break, he really did light it up a little bit more consistently than he did in the earlier part of the season. But the big thing I'm going off of here, and honestly for a lot of these player props, this is what I look for because the playoffs are a different beast. Okay, you can't really use too much of the last 5, last 10 overall data. The playoffs are a different beast because you don't have to worry about minutes. You know everyone's going to play 30 minutes as long as they're healthy. You know they're going to play it with an intensity that you don't normally see in the regular season, especially early on. You could see these lines really blow up, especially in a game like this where you win and you advance to the playoffs, you lose, and now you have to play in another elimination game. There's going to be a lot of intensity with these spots. But the head-to-head data is very solid here for Trae Young. He's cashed this over in 4 of the last 6 matchups against Orlando. That is a 67% hit rate, averaging 38 points plus assists per game over the last 6 matchups with Orlando. Now, interestingly enough, Orlando actually ranks pretty solid defensively versus point guards if we look at the overall season numbers for them. Again, 11th in points allowed, 3rd in assists allowed. Now, if you do go ahead and narrow the matchup data down to the last 15 games of the year for Orlando, yes, they're still a solid defensive team versus point guards, but they're not as good as the overall data suggests. they, believe it or not, are actually about middle of the road in both those categories. Again, they're not a bad defensive team, but they're also not a great defensive team versus point guards. They're about okay, I guess is the best way to describe them. Trae Young, obviously being a superstar, can transcend, I think, most matchups, and I think Orlando is a team he's had success against. He's played them 3 times this year. He's cashed the over in 2 of those 3 meetings, and again, 4 of his last 6. I did bet on this line, actually, pretty similar line back on April 8th against Orlando. We did cash. I think the line might have been a point or 2 lower, but the point being that he's had success on this line, which is a little elevated due to the playoffs. I think it's a pretty solid spot here for Trae Young. He's had success overall this year, recently, and in the head-to-head department. For minus 110 odds, it's a pretty solid player prop here. And for our second and final single bet, so these are the single bet player props in today's video. We're going to the Grizzlies-Warriors game, 10 p.m. tip-off. We got Jaren Jackson Jr. of the Memphis Grizzlies over 20.5 points, minus 110 odds over on DraftKings. So again, pretty good value. It is available on multiple sports books for varying odds. So as always, guys, you have to go ahead and shop around for the best sportsbook odds available to you. Now, the data for Jaren Jackson Jr. isn't as nice as the Trae Young data was from an overall perspective. Last 10 games, just 5 of his last 10, averaging 20.7 points per game over his last 10 games. Even if you want to go ahead and stretch it out to the last 20 games, 50% hit rate, 10 of his last 20, averaging 20.5 points per game over the last 20. So again, not terrible, 50-50, but not great either. If you do look at the overall numbers for Jaren Jackson Jr. for Triple J, 55% hit rate on the year, 41 out of 74 games. He had a really good run there, end of December through most of January into February. But honestly, all of the dysfunction seems to have maybe affected him a little bit because he definitely cooled off compared to how he was earlier in the year. All that being said, I still like him a lot in this spot, in large part due to the matchup here. From a head-to-head perspective, he's cashed this over in 5 of his last 7 games against the Golden State Warriors. That is a 71% hit rate, averaging 23.86 points per game across the last 7 matchups with Golden State. And a lot of this data is pretty recent. He's played them 4 times this year. He cashed the over in 3 of 4 games. The only game where he didn't cash the over this year against Golden State was on December 19th. He had 17 points in that game. He only played like 19.6 minutes, so he didn't play a ton, and he did shoot 5 or 10, but look at the volume. Normally, he's taking close to 20 shots per game. He only took 10 in that one, so that one's a bit of an outlier. Again, this is a play-in tournament game. A lot at stake here. He's going to play in the ballpark of 30 minutes. I don't think you're going to see any weird lineup stuff with him. When he's playing at least 30 minutes, you do see the numbers. He's taking at least 20 shots. He's cashing it pretty consistently. The only other miss he had back on January 15th of last year, going back to the previous season, and he had 20 shots. He just shot poorly, 4 for 12, so 4 for 20, excuse me. So from a head-to-head standpoint, you do see pretty good data. Like I said, 5 of his last 7. He's averaging almost 24 points per game. A lot of shot opportunities. Obviously, this being a play-in tournament, they're going to look to their superstars to lead them. That, of course, is John Morant and Jaren Jackson Jr. and Desmond Bane to an extent. Looking at the matchup versus power forwards, because then Jaren Jackson Jr., who's technically a center, but really more of a power forward, especially when they start Zach Edey. Obviously, he slots as a power forward. Golden State this year, bottom 5 in the NBA in defense versus power forwards, giving up 24 points per game. If you do go ahead and narrow it down to the last 15, they are still bottom half the league in points allowed to the power forward spot. So still a really good matchup. And even versus centers, they rank better, but they're still overall a pretty solid matchup. This team does not have a ton of size. They go small ball on you, which could be some problems, but I don't think it's going to affect Jaren Jackson Jr. all that much because, honestly, he's a bit of an undersized big to begin with. So I do like him a lot in this spot, and for minus 110 odds too, really strong value. All right, guys, so the single bet portion is now done. We are now moving into the parlay portion of today's video. So we're doing a 3-leg parlay, and we're using FanDuel to go ahead and create this parlay. The first leg of our 3-leg parlay, we're going back to that Atlanta-Orlando game, 7:30 p.m. tip-off. In the first leg of our parlay, we have Paolo Banchero of the Orlando Magic over 26.5 points. Again, all alternate lines using FanDuel, minus 245 over on FanDuel. This leg is, I don't know why I'm talking like Master Yoda, but this leg is. But hey, play-in tournament time. But first leg of our parlay, Paolo Banchero over 26.5 points, minus 245 on FanDuel. For an alternate line, you'd like the overall numbers to be a little bit better. Now, the last 10 games, last 20 games, both 60% hit rate. Not bad. He's averaging 28.2 points per game over his last 10, 29.65 over his last 20. So pretty good numbers there. From an overall standpoint, it could be a lot better. There's a 41% hit rate this year, 19 out of 46 games. He's cashed the over, averaging 25.89 points per game this year. Again, for an alternate line where it's minus 245, you'd like the data to be a little bit better. But this is really all about head-to-head matchup and all the circumstances surrounding the matchup. Now, from a head-to-head standpoint, he's cashed the over in 4 of his last 6 games against the Atlanta Hawks. If you want to narrow it a little further, 4 of his last 5, including 3 consecutive games. Now, he's played them 3 times this year. He's cashed the over in all 3 games. And their most recent matchup back on April 8th, about a week ago, literally a week ago, he had 33 points. So some pretty big performances. He scored at least 31 points in all 3 games against Atlanta this year. So some really good numbers. If we look down below at the minutes played, he's playing in the ballpark of 37 minutes per game. Again, I don't expect it to change all that much. And look at the makeup of this Orlando team. Offensively, they are a bit of a disaster. It's the reason why they were a play-in team and not a playoff team, along with all the injuries they obviously had this year. But they honestly played pretty well when Paolo and Franz were both out. It's when those guys came back that this team kind of fell apart in a lot of ways. Offensively, they just don't really have a solid identity. They really struggle with scoring. Defensively, they are fantastic, but they just don't have enough offense. Their only offense typically comes from Paolo or Franz. And, they're obviously their best players, but there's a lot of offensive responsibility on their shoulders. Now, when it comes to betting player props, that's obviously intriguing because he's going to get a ton of volume. And just look at the head-to-head data. He's averaging 23 shot attempts per game across the last 6 matchups with the Atlanta Hawks. And look at the last 3 all of this year. 22 field goal attempts, 25 field goal attempts, 24 field goal attempts. Only one of these games, by the way, he shot 50% or better, which was the last one. He shot 12 for 24. The other games, he shot less than 50% and still cashed the over. The point being, a high number of volume, and even this game, I don't expect it to change. He's going to take at least 20, 21, 22, 23 shots in this game. And as long as he's shooting in the ballpark of 40%, and against Atlanta, he's shooting 44% across those last 6 matchups, he should go ahead and cash this over. 27 points is very realistic. And also Atlanta, one of the worst defensive teams in the NBA against the power forward spot this year, even versus small forwards, even worse. So he plays between the 3 and the 4, both those positions, really bad defensively for Atlanta. Really solid matchup for Powell. That's the first leg of our 3-leg parlay. And for the second and third leg of our parlay, they're both going to come from this Warriors-Grizzlies game. Again, 10 p.m. tip-off. Our second leg is Ja Morant of the Memphis Grizzlies over 22.5 points. Again, alternate line, minus 260 over on FanDuel. This one, the data is a lot cleaner compared to the last one. 8 of his last 10 games, Ja has cashed the over, averaging 30 points per game over his last 10 games. It almost seems like the firing of Taylor Jenkins sort of unleashed an animal in Ja Morant. He's been playing very well lately. I know there's been some controversy with him. I think it's hilarious, the grenade celebration and the fact that you told him no gun celebrations and now he's throwing grenades into the crowd. Really hilarious. He's got some questionable decision making, but you can't deny he's one of the best players in the NBA when he's on his best like he is lately. Even the last 20 games, 75% hit rate, 15 of his last 20 games he's cashed over. Look at this run he's on right now. Again, this is an alternate line. His line would never be this low, but honestly, he's hitting well above this line. He's had a really good run of late. Again, averaging just shy of 27 points per game over his last 20. Overall this year, a 56% hit rate on the over for Ja Morant. 28 out of 50 games he's cashed the over, averaging 23.18 points per game. But again, you do see of late, basically post All-Star break, he has really lit things up for Memphis. Poor choice of wording there, lit things up. But from a head-to-head perspective, not a lot to go off of here, just 2 games in the data. Both were from this year. Earlier this season, he had just 9 points. It was a massive blowout win against Golden State. I don't know how much you can take from that game. The more recent one, which I think is the one you can really take from, is back on April 1st, 2 weeks ago. He had 36 points in what was a tough loss for Memphis. That's the game, but he's in the middle of his run. I think that's the game you can really take some notes from. He played 33 minutes in that game. He shot 14 for 22. Now, he's probably not going to shoot 64% from the floor again. I think it's a little unrealistic. If we look at his last, let's say, 5 games where he cashed the over in 4 of his last 5, he's shooting 50%. So he actually is a really high quality in terms of field goal percentage shooter. But again, looking at this line, he had 36 points. The lines, he only needs 23. So you could literally take 10 points off, which, you eliminate 5 shots, let's say, right? Now he's shooting 9 for 22, which is not that great of a shooting night. He still cashes the over. So the alternate line really plays in here. Golden State overall defensively versus point guards, they do rank pretty well, but Curry at this point in his career is not that great of a defender. Yes, they rank pretty well, but I do think that Ja Morant can get what he wants in this matchup against Golden State. That's the second leg of our 3-leg parlay. In our third and final leg in today's parlay, guys, again, sticking with the Warriors-Grizzlies game, we got Jimmy Butler of the Golden State Warriors over 18.5 points, minus 300 over on FanDuel. Very, very, very juiced. but definitely worth it. Now, for a line this juiced, he's really not doing that great from a numbers perspective. Just 5 of his last 10 games. He has cashed it in 3 straight. Overall, this year, just a 44% hit rate on this over, 24 out of 55 games. He's averaging 17.53 points per game this year. From a head-to-head perspective, again, the last time, he's only played them 1 time this year, and that last time they played as a member of the Warriors, he had 27 points in that game. Part of it is, and maybe I'm stupid for feeling this way, but obviously Jimmy Butler has been known in his career in playoff scenarios, in do-or-die scenarios, to just sort of turn it up a notch. And he's been playing very well with the Golden State Warriors, to be fair. I mean, games this year with Steph Curry, a 48% hit rate on the over with Curry. Again, like I said, the data's not great. I wish he was better for a minus 300 player prop, but I do think it's a lower line playoff scenario. They're going to look to Jimmy Butler to score more. Obviously, when you're in the playoffs, it's very simple. I do think they're going to look to Jimmy Butler to carry more of the load. He did, again, cash the over the last time they played. Memphis defensive versus the 3 spot, too. 30th in points allowed, the worst defense in the NBA against small forwards. So this could be a really good spot here for Jimmy Butler. Like I said, for minus 300 odds, I would have loved to see something with much better data, but it is Jimmy Butler. He is known to flip a switch and turn it up a notch in the playoff time. Goal, obviously, everyone's playing more intensity, more minutes, more everything. I think Butler to score 19 points in this game is a pretty fair assumption here. So, again, the data is not what I'd love it to be, but I do think with the matchup in hand, with the circumstance of the situation, I think Jimmy Butler will rise to the occasion and score some points here for Golden State. And these last couple of games have been these playoff atmosphere games. Now, mainly the Clippers won, right? They did lose. He had 30 points. San Antonio, Portland, they're not really playoff caliber teams, but obviously Golden State, the last few games have been playing for that position, for that seeding. And that Clippers game, I think, was a really good show of what Butler can do in these high-intensity situations. And just, again, the last time they played 2 weeks ago, he had 27 points against Memphis. So I think it's a pretty good spot. So jumping over to FanDuel, guys, real quick little recap. Ja Morant over 22.5 points. Jimmy Butler over 18.5 points. And Paolo Banchero over 26.5 points. You parlay all 3 together, you get a parlay of plus 156 over on FanDuel. I understand some people might be critical because we're obviously betting the big-name players to score in their alternate lines, but in these playoff formats, in these kind of scenarios, you expect your bigger players to rise to the occasion and to score. I think they all got pretty good matchups as well. Paolo Banchero, Jimmy Butler in particular, really good head-to-head defensive matchups. I think Ja Morant also pretty good matchup. So 3-leg parlay plus 156 odds over on FanDuel. And guys, that is it for me today. Thank you very much, as always, for watching. One more time, guys, please make sure to go ahead and hit the subscribe button, hit that like button, and drop a comment down below. I'll be back tomorrow with another NBA player prop video as we continue to cover the NBA play-in tournament. But until then, I hope you're all winners. Enjoy your Tuesday. Enjoy the start of the NBA postseason. And let's go ahead and make some money.